Hello everyone, this is Jacek. In today's tutorial I would like to show you a couple easy steps for color grading, so adding a final touch to your already retouched image. We have a retouched image of Oliwia here, and what we want to do is add something less sterile than it is, because it is a regular studio shot, but we want to do some color grading, so adding some maybe blue tint in the shadows. We want to also adjust the contrast a little bit, and I will show you how to do it with a black and white layer and adding a tint to that layer for an overall golden skin effect. And we will do some vignetting by using curves layer and a irregular shape. So let's start with the blue tint in the shadows. And one very easy way to do so is either with the levels or with the curves. So let's do the curves adjustment layer. Let's go to the blue shadow and just pick up the left bottom anchor point of the curve layer and just drag it up. If you don't like the effect on the skin, just bring down the middle portion and just try to level out the midsection to the highlights, so you're only left with the adjustment in the shadows themselves. If you would like to use levels, just go to the levels adjustment layer and again pick the blue channel and now just drag from the left, but remember to drag on the bottom slider, because if you drag on the upper slider, so on the histogram, you will decrease the amount of blue in the shadows but increase the amount of blue in the highlights. On the bottom one you will increase the amount of blue in the shadows and decrease the amount of blue in the highlights, so add yellow. Unfortunately it is divided like this, but we only want to affect the bottom one, so we only want to add some shadows. So you have either with levels or with curves. I prefer curves, to be honest. It is, for me, it gives you more control and more subtle effect. Okay, so this alone already looks quite nice. It's a very nice color grading effect that you can do. Just add some color to your shadows. Now what we will do is add a black and white layer. It will do some adjustments already for you. It is not a perfect black and white, so desaturation, it is adjusting each color individually and it does something from the start. So let's change this blending mode to soft light, and already, as you can see, it gives you a lot of contrast and desaturation. But of course we don't want that much contrast and desaturation. We only want something around, let's say 20%, 21. Let's make it. But what's interesting here is, first of all, you can drag individual sliders and add more or less luminosity to each color, so you can adjust it a little bit, the contrast. So I brought down the skin a little bit. You can also do with the red one. So for the Caucasian skin, the most popular colors in the skin are the red and the yellow. But what we want to do is check this box saying tint. If you do so, we will add an overall tint to this layer, which will give it a little more of a color grading effect. So let's check it, and what we can do now is select a more orange color, and you can see the effect already in the picture. It gives you a warm golden glow. Now the main rule is that if you go to the white, it will not have an effect. If you go to the black, it will not have an effect. But the further you push it to the right and top, the more saturated and vibrant it will be. The less of a color it has, the less of an effect it has, but also with the luminosity, just play around and you will find your sweet spot. For me it would be something like here. I will click OK. So we have before and after, a very subtle change. If we go all the way up, you can see how the black and white layer behaves. If we change it to the normal blending mode, you see what it does, what the tint does. It just colors the all around black and white effect. If we go to soft light, it will increase and blend with the underlying layer. It will increase the contrast and blend better with the underlying layer. And if you decrease the opacity to 20 something %, you will get just a slight boost in the contrast, but also a very nice warm glow, which goes perfectly with the blue shadows. You can deactivate the blue shadows and just get something really nice and warm, or you can activate the blue shadows and go for a little bit of cross processing. For me personally, I prefer to add the warmth in the black and white layer with the tint, because if I would to add another curve layer with a more orange tone, I would need to adjust more than I do with the black and white layer, so it's quicker and easier to do that way. And now we will add a vignette, which we will do by creating a curve layer with which will darken the entire picture. And what we want to do now is just play with the mask. So we will go to the gradient tool, we will choose the circular gradient, and from the presets we want to pick the second one in the top, so it will go from the foreground color to transparency. And what it does is, let's just open a new document. If I switch to black now, I will increase my opacity so it's visible. Now you can see that it goes from black to opacity. And if I drag and release the gradient, it will create a black gradient circle, but it goes from black to opacity, so it didn't do anything for the white background. I can now drag and release another circle, and as you can see, I have now two circles, so I can make them as many as I want. If I want to delete it, and I will go, because on white it looks it gives you the best example of what it does. If I go with a regular preset, so from black to white color, every time I draw a new circle, it will fill in the rest outside of the circle with white. So I cannot draw more than one circle because everything else will be always filled with white. That's why we will be using the from foreground to transparency preset, and I have it set to, I need to set it to black now. I will decrease the opacity, and now on this layer, so on this layer mask, I want to draw a couple of those circles just to accentuate this main focus of the picture. And as you can see, it's not a regular shape, it's quite irregular. If you see some bending, you can add a noise, afterwards. We are working on an 8-bit image. If we would like to eliminate those the bending, we would need to start with a 16-bit image. But I wanted to show you one possible method for very nice vignetting without it being so obvious, and with you having the control over all the areas that you want to reveal and just focus your attention on the image. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave a like and comment on this video. If you want to be up to date with everything I do, please subscribe to the channel. You can also turn on the notification icon, the bell one. I am trying to do more English tutorials, so please keep that in mind and subscribe. And you can also see some backstage videos that doesn't require your knowledge of Polish. So Thank you very much and hear you in the next one. Bye.